All right, this is my third time trying to record this. I've been having audio issues for some weird reason. But as always, this isn't a reaction channel. These are just clips that I find interesting that I figured I'd share with you guys. So let's check it out.
Want to see what $1 million of your taxpayer dollars just went to? Boston Mayor Michelle Wu's Office of LGBTQ Advancement, which is holding a Trans Period Pride event at a local public library, where they will discuss menstrual equity and the experiences of trans menstruators. And yeah, this is a real thing. Oh,
$1 million.
And dinner will be catered, and attendees will be given free period underwear at this free event, paid for by taxpayers, where they will talk about how biological women still menstruate even when they think they're men, and other ridiculous things. So, if anybody wants to go ahead and send that meteor along now, we're all waiting.
But there's still thousands of homeless people out there in Boston that they just can't help, right? But $1 million for this ridiculousness?
Absolute worst waters we tested in 2026. First on our list is Topo Chico, which scored 38 out of 100 due to it having the highest level of forever chemicals or PFAs out of any bottled water. Next, we have Kirkland Signature Water, which scored 41 out of 100 due to having 9 times the legal limit of trihalomethanes, which are a known endocrine disruptor and even damage your reproductive system. Next on our list, and a shocking one, was Mountain Valley Spring Water, which came back at 50 out of 100, which turned out as okay, but it did have very high levels of arsenic, 40 times the recommended guideline. Next is Walmart Spring Water, scoring 25 out of 100 due to it having 10 times the recommended guidelines of radium-226 and 228, as well as high amounts of bromate. Famous Fiji Water scored 25 out of 100 as well due to having high heavy metal content, such as chromium, arsenic, and even some forever chemicals as well. Finally, Essentia scored 10 out of 100 due to having trihalomethanes, forever chemicals, bromate, and even some phthalates. We analyze, review, and publish the complete findings for every single water brand on the Purely app, where you
that these scientists were so afraid to admit that it was a heat event. That says it all.
So Sodom and Gomorrah, it looks like one of those mythological stories out of the Bible, right? Oh yeah, sure. Fire comes from heaven. 15 years ago, I was in one of these, conference rooms, and I just wandered into this session because it had an intriguing title, something about archaeological discoveries at Tel El Hammam in Jordan. And as I'm listening to this presentation, they described these 2 city mounds that they had found on the Jordanian side of the Jordan River. I raised my hand immediately and I said, well, did you find any arrowheads? When you have a destruction layer of an ancient city, if you find arrowheads in the destruction layer, it means that an army caused the destruction and they were shooting arrows at the defenders and blah, 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 blah. If you find a destruction layer and there aren't arrowheads, that means an army did not destroy the city and then probably it was some kind of natural event. The researcher starts to get very bashful. He says, well, I didn't really want to go there, but all I want to say while we're recording this session is that it was a heat event. And there's like 20 other people in the room and we're like looking at each other like, a heat event? Like, is that like a wardrobe malfunction? Like, what is a heat event?
At no time in human history has the woman on the left would be deemed more attractive, broadly speaking, than the woman on the right.
No, I'm 100% can guarantee that at some point in time.
At what point in time?
Like, I mean, even now, look at her lips. Her lips are bigger, right? Like, she has bigger lips.
Beauty is not just in the eye of the beholder. It's at least partially grounded in...
I mean, she's clearly just flat out lying. There is no possible way she could think that the woman on the left was better looking than that girl on the right. Just, they're so brainwashed that they can't even admit that a beautiful white woman is more attractive than an extremely ugly black woman. They're just so brainwashed they can't even admit that. If this was a picture, say, of Beyonce, if they were comparing Beyonce with this woman, would she still be saying that woman on the left was prettier? Or Kamala Harris, would she be saying that woman on the left was prettier? No, it's because these, left-wing nut jobs they just can't admit that a white woman is prettier than any black woman.
Objective, measurable traits. I would be willing to wager quite a bit that I could show this men would pick the woman on the right.
Legitimately, like when
yeah,
you're
you've been
asking me,
brainwashed.
out of the two of them, who I genuinely believe is more beautiful,
Yeah.
I would say
Genuinely,
it's the woman on the left. And my reasoning for that is because I just don't think that like the Eurocentric, like that just like whitewashed look is like super, super insanely attractive because everybody looks like that.
The woman on the left to you.
Yeah.
Because everybody looks like that. Where? I mean, sure, white people are the majority in America, but saying that everybody looks like that, white people aren't the majority in the world.
Yes.
Is more beautiful.
Yes.
You're either blind or trolling or
Just
lying.
Of why people from socialist countries love this man.
Socialism promises prosperity, but it delivers poverty. Socialism promises unity, but it delivers hatred and it delivers division. Socialism promises a better future, but it always returns to the darkest chapters of the past. Socialism is a sad and discredited ideology rooted in the total ignorance of history and human nature, which is why socialism eventually must always give rise to tyranny. We know that socialism is not about justice. It's not about equality. It's not about lifting up the poor. Socialism is about one thing only: power for the ruling class.
Most creative way to evict squatters, and the fact that this is legal is actually hilarious. So this guy is called the Squatter Hunter, and after his father died, he had to deal with squatters of his own, so he dedicated his life to getting rid of them. And what he learned is that squatting laws in California are actually crazy. As long as someone moves furniture in, the police can no longer do anything because it's now a civil matter. And as long as they stay on your property for just 30 days, they get the same legal rights as a tenant, which means normally you would have to go through the full eviction process, which can take months, sometimes even years, and tens of thousands of dollars, but not for the Squatter Hunter. What he realized is that squatters only have this power because they have possession of the property. So what if he just takes the possession back? So what he does is he gets himself added to the lease and just moves in, but becomes the most annoying roommate possible. He eats their food, he blasts music at 3 a.m., he takes the couch, he drinks their coffee, and he literally just makes their life as terrible as you could possibly imagine. And since he's also technically a legal resident now, just like the squatter is, there's nothing that the squatter can do about it. He's done this over a dozen times and has built a whole business around it, and he even has a show where he just kicks out squatters. His motto is literally, if they can take a house, then I can take a house. And so the lesson here is sometimes the best thing to do is give people a taste of their own medicine, and follow for more strategies like this, or you might never see me again.
These migrant men are harassing this woman, and this observer comes in and he has a little conversation with these guys. It tells them to go away, don't do this.
Bonjour.
They're like, what do you mean? Go away. We have a right to harass women. Good doggy. Good doggy.
Sounds like they're in France. Or at least they're speaking French.
C'est comme ça qu'il faut draguer une femme. D'accord, ça te regarde? Moi, ça me regarde pas, mais Red, ça le regarde, parce qu'il aime pas qu'on agresse les femmes. Il peut me regarder jusqu'à demain comme ça.
Red.
Bon, au bout d'un moment, il va arrêter de regarder, il va intervenir. Moi, je vous propose de partir et on en reste là.
That dog is just waiting for a signal. Let me go. Let me go. Let me have him.
Et pourquoi vous êtes comme ça?
Bugger off.
Attention.
So that's why more and more women are turning to having big dogs. So yeah, that's the reason.
Apparently, this is how the elites tell the truth and laugh at our face at the same time. So y'all check this out.
That's right, Grover. This is the fiction section. Fiction means it's a made-up story.
Well,
It means it's a made-up
right
story.
there.
First of all, man, we've got to get all these medieval ideas out of your head. Clear the way for new ideas. Knowledge of man's fabulous discoveries in the centuries ahead. Now that'll be a great advantage, boy.
Advantage indeed. If the boy goes about saying the world is round, they'll take him for a lunatic.
You know, I don't know. Some conspiracy theories seem to have some validity to them. The flat Earth theory is one that I just can't get behind.
The world is round?
Well, Admiral, is Atlantis real?
Yes.
People who say that they've been abducted by aliens. What's the most shocking, surprising thing that you've learned from talking to these people?
I've just had many people come to me and tell me, this is what I saw. I know these are real.
Yeah.
And these are credible people, former military officers and enlisted sailors and technicians, civilian technicians. If UAPs are operated by an intelligence that wants to remain largely unseen, the place they would be is the ocean. we've seen reports and videos that seem to be censored, and it's quite clear you can see an object falling out of the sky on the very low resolution video. Revealing to the American public that you can't protect our airspace and water space is not a good policy. And so how do you be transparent and then admit that we invest billions of dollars in NORAD and our aerospace defense and our undersea warfare capabilities, and they're essentially useless to these type of phenomena?
This just might be the biggest story in human history.
Your shirt. Thank you.
Now, this video absolutely just pisses me off because you'll see how this woman is treated by the other organizers of this protest that she's at. You know, the people on the left love pointing to the people on the right, especially MAGA, and referring to them as a cult. But you'll see in this video the way they won't let this woman even talk to anybody with a microphone. I mean, what do cults do, right? They want to isolate their members. They don't want them talking to anybody outside other than them because they're afraid that this outside person might be able to undo some of their brainwashing. So you'll see in this video how they try to stop that from happening.
I love your shirt.
No, get away from me. Hi.
Okay.
Here comes the cult leader.
They're bad people. It's okay. They're just trying to get people. It's okay. They're just trying to get
And the worst part is they do this, like, especially to the vulnerable people of our society, the elderly people and the kids, right? Those are the ones who are easily manipulated and easily brainwashed. And they're just taking advantage of them.
Get that out of my fucking face.
You're a bad person. The only bad people here I've seen are you guys.
Don't talk to me. They're just here to try and rattle people up and then post it on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And they're still sticking to get the fuck out of my face.
Can you just prove me wrong with an argument instead of telling people not to talk to me?
There are people coming around with video cameras. Ignore them.
Are you able to have a conversation? You're crashing out right now. I love your hair. That's beautiful. What'd your sign say? What'd your sign say?
Hey guys, someone's coming around with video cameras. Just ignore them. Guys, there's someone.
Freedom
Okay.
for everybody.
Yeah.
Democracy.
Do you think there's also freedom for illegal aliens, or is that a...
Don't engage.
Oh, they're not here to Gotcha.
Engage with this woman.
Do you even know anything about me?
You can hear the person in the background on the blowhorn saying Foxtrot Delta Tango. I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm going to assume maybe it means like Delta Tango means don't talk. You know, Foxtrot maybe filming, don't talk.
God, ladies, you wouldn't restrict a woman's right to speak to others, would you? Are you guys that scared of... Hi! How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I love your umbrella. Are you part of the LGBTQ community?
Of course I am.
Of course you are. Wow. I'm not shocked by that. Which letter are you part of?
You can ignore them. They just want you to.
See, so we got some kind of random object in the sky, and he says it looks like a dude in a spacesuit. And I kind of see that.
I don't know. Could be anything. Could be AI. Could be totally fake.
Actually, what do y'all think? Look right there. Creepy. All right, let's
kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
That's the popular podcaster Hassan Piker.
This guy's a huge a-hole, and he abuses animals, which he was caught live on stream abusing his own dog.
His stream a few years ago, and here he is just a few days back in conversation published by the New York Times.
Brian Thompson, as the United Healthcare CEO, was engaging in a tremendous amount of social murder.
It's part of a worrying trend in which political violence is being normalized. And this weekend, we saw where this could lead. On Saturday night, a 31-year-old named Cole Allen attempted to storm the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. According to the police, in his own manifesto, Allen came to murder President Donald Trump and other members of his cabinet. He said he didn't want the crimes of the administration to, quote, coat his hands. A lot of people want to tell themselves that only crazy people could do such a thing, travel by train across the country to try to murder Donald Trump. But there is a growing part of our society that increasingly sees sees violence as a valid means of political expression. We saw it when the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was justified by supporters of Luigi Mangione.
Here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man.
And we saw it again last year in the people who celebrated after Charlie Kirk was killed by a man offended by his opinions.
He did say that gun deaths were an acceptable side effect of gun rights.
We got Charlie in the neck.
Once you start calling things that aren't murder, like running,
they hate Charlie Kirk, or they hated Charlie Kirk, because he disproved everything they believed in, and he was undoing a lot of the brainwashing that they were doing out on college campuses, and they couldn't stand it. That's why they hated him, and that's why they took him out.
Companies whose insurance policies you disagree with, murder, it's a lot easier to justify actual violence. This is what makes this type of sentiment so terrifying, that it's not coming from a lunatic fringe, but rather from some of the highest educated members of our society, like Cole Allen, who had an engineering degree from prestigious Caltech and a master's in computer science. One recent survey found that Americans with graduate degrees are twice as likely to support political violence. It can start with high-minded discussions on Ivy League campuses, where speech is derided as violence and actual violence is excused. But it can move from ideas into action. Then, a man with 2 guns and several knives shows up at a gala, out for blood. The thing that makes America exceptional is not just our Constitution and our First Amendment, but the culture of freedom that upholds it and makes it real. It is up to all 330 million of us to protect that right.
Just last week marked Zoran Mamdani's first 100 days as mayor, and I wonder if you can just tell us your assessment of those first 100 days in office.
This is the beginning of a historic decline for the city of New York, which is such an economic driver for the state when you have a radical socialist takeover. The job of mayor is not to cut videos and produce them every day. That's what he seems to be spending his time on. And the fact that they celebrated their 100 days of socialism by doing a fake museum that included his Taco Bell leftovers. Literally, that was one of the exhibits in the museum for the 100-day celebration, shows you how self-centered they are. And when you look at his campaign promises, he falsely said he wants to make New York more affordable. He's making New York more unaffordable. He's talking about raising taxes on working New Yorkers, on small businesses. So this is not going to be a good chapter for New York City. And the rest of the Democrats in the state have to deal with this socialist. On the New York State ballot, for example, there's the Working Families Party. They are holding candidates to radical socialism to get that Working Families Party line.
I mean, New York just ranked, I think, like dead last in state tax competitiveness.
Yes, number 50.
I think a big part of his campaign, as you mentioned, was that students, like Columbia students, kind of glommed on to these promises, like, making New York more affordable, free buses. My bus fare certainly is not free. I kind of wonder when you think people will wake up to the gap between the promises that he made and then just the reality that New York will likely become more expensive and less safe.
I mean, they woke up over the course of the campaign. Traditionally, a Democrat primary winner wins like in the 70%. Mamdani barely broke 50%. And that was telling. When they talk about this mandate, he does not have a mandate. It was the lowest performance for a Democrat nominee in a very, very long time.
Politician forced to flee her apartment out of fear after housing an immigrant squatter. What? This article is a few months old, but is still living in her brother's house. She's not been able to return to the home she purchased in 2021. A politician for Spain's left-wing party rented a room to an immigrant for humanitarian reasons. The tenant quickly stopped paying rent, became highly aggressive, called her derogatory names. He also changed the locks on his room to establish occupancy. When she went to the police, they told her that they could do nothing without a judge's eviction order. Due to the current Spanish housing laws, he's illegally protected as a squatter. Oh my God. That's what you get.
Sounds like she needs to hire that guy that we saw earlier in the video.
She was forced to flee her own apartment for her safety, and she now lives with her relatives, is undergoing psychological therapy, and has to pay the $900 a month for the expenses that he occupies. She openly admits this experience has radically changed her political perspective. She stated she will never take a squatter in again, and has now launched a petition demanding the authorities speed up the eviction laws.
It took something to happen directly to her for her to change her political views. Like, anybody with common sense can understand these things, but these people, especially on the far left, they can't understand anything that's going on unless it directly affects them, right? That's why you see all these white liberal women living in their gated communities that, they vote left, but they don't have all those homeless people like out in LA living in their streets because they live in some nice little gated community. It's not until it actually affects them that they'll actually see what's going on.
This is what I said before. Remember what I said earlier about how, if you really want this to stop, house a lot of these migrants next to these people's houses. Like, buy the houses that are around them, send 5 migrants to live there, and then see how things change.
First time in American history, the number of white people went down.
And white Americans will soon be a minority, and that's great.
Whites will not be the majority. I mean, it's an exciting transformation of the country. It's an exciting evolution and progress of our country.
We are going to be a white minority very, very soon.
Let's just talk about facts, okay? Globally, white people make about 11% of the world's population. That's already a minority on a global scale. Most of the world is Asian, African, South Asian, Middle Eastern, Indigenous, etc. That's just reality. So when I see people celebrate a demographic change like it's just a win over a group, I'm confused. Imagine if we were saying, oh, Asians are shrinking, that's great. And I don't think it would hit this hard if white people weren't already demonized today, and hear me out. They're saying progress requires guilt and an apology for something you never did. And we have come such a long way as a society, praise God. And a lot of people have put in real work to make things better. But when white kids grow up being told there's something wrong with them just for existing, that doesn't create understanding, that creates resentment. And that's how you push people from one side to another, towards figures like Nick Fuentes. The whole point of this was to be less dehumanization, not switching who gets it.
All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. As always, leave any of your comments that you have about any of these clips down in the comments section. I'd love to see what you guys think about this. And as always, thanks for watching.